Painting this turned out to be so much more complicated than I thought. So when I first started painting this, I was like, oh, I'll just paint a silly little seascape to teach at one of my paint nights. And at the start, yeah, it seemed like it was going to be pretty simple and easy to do, but once I started adding the coral, things got complicated. It's my own fault, really, but I just couldn't help myself from experimenting and painting coral in about 100 different ways. On this one, for example, I experimented with like a pointillism sort of style to try and mimic that crunchy, bumpy look that coral has to it a lot of the time. This other one is a similar shape, but it's set a bit farther back in the painting, so I used smooth strokes and lots of blending to keep the edges nice and soft. But also, with this one and a couple other ones that I wanted to set a bit further back in the painting, I used colors that didn't contrast as much with the background and used highlights a lot more sparingly just to help them not stand out too much. This one I painted pretty much the same way that I would paint a tree, minus the trunk and the leaves and all that fancy stuff, and I guess that means that I really just painted tree branches, but I kept the branches, especially near the end, much shorter than I normally would, and overall, I think it takes on a pretty convincing coral shape. And that worked so well that I decided to use pretty much the same technique on the one right next to it, just giving the edges of the branches a more bulbous shape to make it more unique looking. And it came out looking pretty cool. I might make it into a puzzle.